Hey, Back to Basics, it's Dana, Ms. Dangerous, and I'm your vlogger today. This week we're talking about if we had our own WLS school, and what would our school look like, what would the courses be, what would be required versus electives. So, if I had my own WLS school, first of all I would tell you that it would be a very interesting school because it would be a mix of traditional kind of what I call talking head learning. You know, there's an instructor or a teacher who's telling you stuff, and there would be a whole lot of hands-on, bodies-on, experiential kind of learning, and lots of field trips and fun stuff. So, here is what my catalog of courses would look like. First of all, there would of course be a food and nutrition series. And, you know, I numbered a couple of these kind of like I would college courses, but, you know, a nutrition 101 and 102. So those would be a requirement for pre-ops and new post-ops, maybe for the first few months. I think, you know, different people have kind of a different how quick they get it. So that would be kind of how to eat during your, you know, losing phase, how to read nutritional levels, what kind of nutritions do you need, what kind of supplements do you need, working through, you know, when stuff doesn't agree with you, what can you substitute, like initial menu planning, initial shopping kinds of stuff. So that's kind of nutrition 101, 102. Then the next part of the series I called the evolution of WLS eating. So that's going to be for people who are like 12 to 18 months out, and it's going to be more advanced kind of nutrition, but also maybe some back to basics. Because what happens is, you know, when we're really new, there's a ton of stuff to learn, and it's hard to learn all of it. And so we, I think, have to get reinforced and hear some things maybe at some point in time. But also, so we forget stuff, but also because, you know, over time, we go back to eating, you know, less shakes maybe, or we want to eat more real food, or we kind of creep in maybe things that we used to eat. So it's kind of a reset and adjust. And I think that depending on the person, there's also a different kind of appetite for learning, you know, whole eating or different kinds of stuff. So those both are required depending on where you're at in your journey. Then we have a couple of electives in the food and nutrition series. So creative cooking. You know, I think we're always interested in finding cooking classes and demos where we could, you know, go in and prep and try and stuff. And then another elective would be cooking for families. I know some of us have families with, you know, young kids, or and so it's a challenge sometimes to, well, what do I cook for me and the family? And so kind of creative cooking for families, I think, is another part of the food and nutrition series. So then my next class is called Sweat It or Don't. And it's basically, the course description is, it's a required course, but it's developing your own personal exercise style, finding ways to move your body that you like. Some people love to really sweat. I don't really like to sweat, though I like to move my body in different ways. Technical assistance, so I think how to do certain kinds of exercise and do, you know, strength and cardio and things. And I want it to include personal training with caring, qualified professionals, and or maybe group training, buddies, 2s or 3s, people who like to do the same thing and kind of get training and coaching included. I have the benefit over the past couple years to have access to personal training at my work, and I do it with another friend, and at one point I did it with 2 other friends, and it made things much more fun. And though they're not weight loss surgery patients, we were kind of comparable. We're comparable in the ages, and we were comparable at our skills levels. And so this idea to have small group kind of training was great. So that's sweat it or don't. The next course is called Tell It Like It Is, Interpersonal Communication. And this is a requirement. So this is going to be how to express yourself in new and different ways, as far as, expressing your needs, giving feedback to others, and what you hear in the industry called assertive communication, which is, when you need to talk to somebody, you talk about, I feel this when this happens, and here's what I need. And it's a way that it's a technique where you can hopefully reduce the defensiveness of the person who you're, talking with. So I think that, a lot of times, everybody, I think, can improve on this, but a lot of times, if we've been overweight a long time, this ability to express our needs in kind of positive ways is rough sometimes. The next class that is also a requirement, I have a lot of requirements, is called Changes, Change Management. So building new habits and breaking old ones, timing changes, and I think that sometimes we I've heard people say don't make major life changes if you can too quickly. So timing of changes, how to get others on the change wagon or kick them off your change wagon, if they are not going to go along. So that's the next course. The next course, another required course, I'm sorry. No, I'm not, because my courses are going to be fantastically fun and experiential. It's called WLS Show and Tell or Don't Tell. And that's about, there's 3 big modules. So one module is documenting your journey, and it's going to give you ideas for measuring, tracking food, calculating stuff, creating your own pictures, doing journals, social media 101. So how might you use Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, including the etiquette for those things. Yes, I know that's an old-fashioned word, but, yeah, we all need to be kinder and practice some etiquette. And so that's another module in this class. And then another module in the WLS Show and Tell or Don't Tell is the selfie module. So we need to learn how to do selfies in all lights, in extreme conditions such as bathrooms and dressing rooms. And we need to learn how to do it quickly and discreetly, or sometimes slowly and take the time. So that's the WLS Show and Tell or Don't Tell. The next class I called Stay Away from the Trading Post. And it's about transfer addictions. So trading one addiction for another. I think this probably ought to also be required. So transfer addictions, what are they? Things to watch for in your own life, kind of warning signs. What to do if you think, you are maybe having a transfer addiction, if it's unhealthy. How to get help if you need it. So that's the next class. The next class is, I think, also required. It's called Love Without Chocolates, the Care and Feeding of Relationships. And it is about building and maintaining healthy relationships when you no longer feed people or when you no longer interact with them around food. And I think that this should have a couple of modules, because it needs to have a module about lovers, husbands, significant others, whatever. Wives, and I think it also needs to have friends. What do you do when all you did with your friends was you went out to eat together, and or you took them homemade cakes? So, Love Without Chocolates, Care and Feeding of Relationships. Okay, the next class is called Pushing Your Boundaries Through NSVs. And this is basically an experiential field trip based class. So we would go out into the world and we would try new things, and they can be things like taking an airplane trip. They could be things like activities, going ziplining. They could be sitting in the dinkiest, smallest little chair that we can find. But, you know, things to kind of push our boundaries and celebrate NSVs together. The next class is required. It's called the Teenage Do-Over. And it would include topics like getting attention from the opposite sex, and how do you feel about that and what do you do with it. It would talk about balancing fun and work and commitments, because you can't be all fun and no work or commitments, but you need to have some fun. It would include sex ed, including the new kind of sex life you can have. It would include, basically in this course, how to sow your wild oats in a way that doesn't shoot yourself in the foot later. Okay, an elective, dress for success, finding your new style for your new body, and of course, it includes field trips and a budget to buy new stuff. Yeah. A required class, study hall for the inside you. So, you know, study hall is where you sit and you're supposed to work on other things. Well, this is study hall, some specific time that you would have to learn how to figure out, and just time to figure out what's important to you. Maybe how to meditate, how to reflect, to think about, you know, your values, just to think about yourself and the person that you are and that you want to be. So that's study hall for the inside you. Then we have exploration opportunities classes, and this would be a whole bunch, and they're electives, but I'd like to have art classes, music classes, crafts, dance, exercise, all kinds of things to replace food and live a healthy, balanced life, creating new interests, and of course they're going to include field trips. And my last class is an elective, and it's the realities of reconstructive surgery, the good, the bad, the recovery, and the price tag. So that's my WLS school. I think I probably could have thought some more. I think it would be fun. Would you come with me if I went to this school? I hope so. Talk to you later. I hope you have fun. Bye.